In at 10, not first. Apparently, unlike everyone from the YouTube comments, the puppet was indeed not the first. Well, first victim of William Afton. That ends up being Chica, as told to us by Chica in Ultimate Custom Night, saying, "I was first, I have seen everything." Which is pretty weird if you think about it. Like, why is Susie the first one to die? Like, why can't it be Charlotte or Cassidy? Like, why must it be that every time we think we have something right about the series that's locked in and it's established in the community, Scott ends up just throwing it down the drain? It happens with the puppet and it happens with the identity of Michael Afton every other week, so I don't know why. Every time we think we know something, unless it's been directly confirmed, it gets thrown out the window. Well, unlike our first assumptions that the puppet wasn't first, but still. In at 9, Give Life. From the FNAF 2 minigame Give Gifts, Give Life, we can tell that while not being the first, the puppet was the one who brought the other animatronics to life in the suits. We see as the children lay down on the ground, the puppet gives them gifts to cheer them up, because, you know, being dead will put a bummer on things. But when that doesn't work, I guess the puppet's like, oh damn, they must be dead-o, and brings them to life in the animatronic suits, which is interesting from a lore standpoint now with what we know about Remnant, since, you know, they don't possess animatronics on their own. Were they in enough pain before they died? That sounds really bad, but like, did they not suffer enough? Should they have experienced more pain? Ah, man, what the FNAF series will do to literally any pure soul. Not that my soul was pure. Hell no, I don't have a soul. And I enjoy killing Wraith in Skyrim too much for that, especially in VR. I'm still on that. VR killing simulator. In at 8, Behind the Mask. You wanna know who's behind the mask? Do you really want to know? You already know, people. Come on, I literally said it in number 10. It's Charlotte. Well, I mentioned Charlotte, but it's not like you didn't know that. It's not like this channel introduced you to the FNAF series. You're all here because MatPat isn't uploading any new theory videos. Well, except for that one he just uploaded. Well, either way, the one hidden behind the puppet mask is Charlotte, Henry's daughter, as revealed by the original FNAF novel trilogy. We technically don't know her official name in the game since her grave was blurred out in the gravestone ending of FNAF 6, but nevertheless, it's still Henry's daughter, as told to us by Henry himself during his final monologue in the real FNAF 6 ending. Because we know this is Henry speaking, not only because he calls the puppet his daughter, but also because in the Insanity ending we can hear an audio file play, and the monitor on your computer has the file labeled as HRY223, HRY Henry. So, yes, Charlotte or Charlie is the puppet, even in the games. Chill up. And at 7, Lefty. Lefty is the robot that captures the puppet to bring them to the FNAF 6 location, but my question is, how did that robot work? Not in the sense of like, how did it lure away the puppet? Like, I know it did that with the bracelet code, but the fact that emitting the bracelet code worked is what's really confusing. How did that work when Charlotte was the one possessing the animatronic? She was the one with the bracelet code, and according to her in Ultimate Custom Night, she's very aware. So how did she get tricked into protecting herself when she was already dead and aware of it? That just doesn't seem logical. And to go on that point, why didn't they just emit the bracelet code from the restaurant instead of making a whole new animatronic to capture her? Wouldn't it just have been easier to lure her in and then trap her inside the restaurant? Like, you can just pour salt at the doors and spirits can't cross that. I just find that Lefty was it was just another excuse to make a Freddy variation, right? Like, they had to up the numbers. They're like, we ain't meeting our Freddy quota today. We gotta bump it up. Lefty, there you go. Another bear. It has to be. And at 6, Key Player. When we talk about FNAF, you usually think about the core 4 animatronics, the ones who have had multiple versions of themselves and have appeared in basically every game, aside from Chica and Sister location. Yes, Scott was a little too tired of the fan art, but rules are rules, Scott, especially internet rules. However, even though she got introduced in the second game, the puppet has been presented in at least 6 out of the 8 FNAF games, appearing in FNAF 2, FNAF 3, FNAF 4's Nightmare On, FNAF 6 in the Security Puppet minigame, Ultimate Custom Night, FNAF VR Help Wanted, and FNAF 1 in the form of posters that can sometimes appear on the wall. The puppet has been, dare I say, puppeteering the FNAF series from the background, even before being a canon character in the series. Puns. Halfway through into number 5, first. While we thought that Charlotte may not have been the first victim of William Afton, she was still, at least at that point in our minds, the first to possess any animatronic. This was shown to us in the Security Puppet minigame, where we see the puppet and Charlie combine after she was brutally killed by Afton outside the Fazbear joint. And with what we knew about Remnant and Agony, how the true possession only comes from intense pain and emotion in the form of agony, we can be damn well sure that she was in agonizing pain when she was killed. Not only was she, like, you know, stabbed at the hands of her father's friend and business partner, but she was also stuck outside of her favorite place on Earth, somewhere that was literally designed to defend her. But the security puppet was blocked off by an unknown source, okay? Maybe it was just a couple of bullies who wanted a girl out of their fun, maybe it was Afton setting it up. Who knows? Either way, she was in agony. So much so that when she died, she was instantly able to possess an animatronic that was designed to defend her. So much that it sacrificed its life crawling inside the rain, and it's like Henry coded himself into the puppet, but that's a theory for another day. Especially when Glitchtrap is sentient code. Maybe Henry is sentient code in like the puppet, kind of. And then for Lefty. The Lefty animatronic is actually an acronym. LEFTE stands for Lure, Encapsulate, Fuse, Transport, and Extract. So before you go off in the comments saying that we spelt it wrong, technically we didn't. It's just more commonly written with a Y. This version of Freddy, which it is, don't come for me saying that it's not a Freddy, okay? Any bear with a Freddy characteristics is a Freddy animatronic, especially in this series. Anyway, this bear was specially designed by Henry to emit the bracelet code that corresponds to the one Charlotte was wearing, as we see in the security puppet minigame, the green one. Then use that bracelet to lure the puppet Charlotte, to capture her, bring her to the pizzeria from Pizzeria Simulator, and then free her soul. This line is such a good example of context and delivery. The way I put that is nice. He wanted to free his daughter's soul. But if I was to say something like capture her and then bring her to the pizzeria so that she could burn with the rest, which is still true, that sounds a lot more sinister. Just goes to show that you need more than one perspective on everything. And at 3, the Reaper puppet. Here we go again. The one that you all knew I'd be putting on this list, but probably figured that I'd be putting at number 1. At least if you watched any of the other FNAF videos where I mentioned this creep of an animatronic. If you haven't heard of him, I was first introduced to him when I was researching the top 10 scariest FNAF animatronics list way back when, during like the first FNAF cycle on this channel. And I wanted to include a fan character at number 10, but also didn't realize that it was a fan animatronic until after I had written most of the number. I don't know how I didn't realize it, I just kind of looked at it and was like, yes. But when I found the Reaper puppet, I was incredibly terrified and honestly fearful of what I'd end up seeing. The Reaper puppet is a really screwed up version of the puppet that we all know. The one that gave life to the animatronics, and if you think that the puppet walking towards you in VR is creepy, the Reaper puppet climbs over the hospital room. Like, it climbs over the railing to the hospital room, and it's in the most disturbing way that I've ever seen. Like, it's one of the most terrifying moments of the Final Night series to me, and this is a game where you basically need to actually sleep to pass time. If you're awake and defending yourself, time doesn't pass, or at least passes very slowly. It's terrifying and the most intense moment of the series to me. I hate it. And at 2, fan versions. While the normal puppet animatronic may not be scary per se, the fan-made versions of the character are. Take for example the Reaper puppet from Final Nights 3 and 4, the scrapped withered puppet that was showcased by Amanda in the top 10 scary FNAF fan animatronics part 2, or literally any other animatronic puppet that was ever created. I don't know how people are so easily able to make this damn thing so scary. I usually don't include fan-made versions as a number on these facts lists, but for some reason so many people want to make terrifying versions of the puppet. What about the Havoc puppet from Dermitibus? Have you seen that thing? It's like the spiders in Australia got their hands on the illicit substances that bodybuilders use. If you're mad about the weird phrasing, blame YouTube, not me. Can't say anything anymore without being demonetized. Damn, this puppet got me ranting about YouTube. That means you know it did something. Finally, in number 1, family ties. The puppet is one of the few dead children to have a connection to someone important in the series, the others being members of the Afton family. The puppet, on the other hand, is a member of the Emily family. Well, at least according to the book, their last name is Emily, but who cares at this point? Out of everything we want answered, you decide to give us that, Scott? We legit have a list about top 10 FNAF unanswered questions, by the way. You should go check that out. Click in the top right corner. However, Charlotte has more of a connection than anybody else. I mean, she is Henry's daughter, the mastermind behind the animatronics of the Freddy's restaurants, and she was killed by William Afton, the business partner to her father. She was probably also friends with his kids since their parents were together so much, and she went on to become the first possessed animatronic, bringing to life all those that came after, either directly or by proxy. And 10, Crying Child. The theory that started with the release of FNAF 4 was that the puppet was the Crying Child. The idea mostly came from the design of the puppet compared to the design of Crying Child's sprite, since the two had horizontal stripes and a love of crying. However, this ultimately was not the case, but it was still a solid idea when the theory first came around. Some of the evidence not only included their design but also positions, like how Crying Child would kneel while crying in the storage room, and the puppet's silhouette silhouette in FNAF 3's Mangle's Quest minigame. But like I said, it was confirmed to be Charlotte after we see her die in FNAF 6, and the puppet comes out to possess her, or I guess save her, resulting in one of the most delicate possessions in the series, which is weird to say the least. And at 9 after Phone Guy. There was also a common consensus that the puppet was actually after the Phone Guy. This whole idea came from a single line in FNAF 2 where Phone Guy says, "I never liked that puppet thing. It's always thinking." That combined with his love for Foxy actually made us believe that Purple Guy was going to be revealed as Phone Guy, which was at the time the closest thing we had gotten to getting an identity for the one everyone called Vincent for some damn reason. However, this was proven false in Sister Location. But that still leads us to think that, like, was the puppet actually after the Phone Guy? Because how else would he know that it's always thinking? It has to be some weird thing that happened to Phone Guy while he was on guard, like, right? It has to be, but what could it be? He doesn't look like William to our knowledge, and he doesn't really have any other connection. Or maybe there's something more sinister going on about the Phone Guy, something that we dismissed after he wasn't the Purple Guy. Is he the indie game dev, since he was voiced by Scott Cawthon? Or is he actually William Afton disguising himself as a guy talking to you on the phone? All interesting questions. And at 8, Nightmare On. What's the deal with Nightmare On? Or airplane food for that matter. Or some may call her Nightmarionette. But seriously, why is this animatronic in the game if it isn't even considered canon? And if it's not canon, why do we end up seeing more of them in Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF VR? Plus, even if they were canon, they were an animatronic generated inside Crying Child's head. So how on earth were they able to put it in future games, specifically FNAF VR? I have an entirely separate video about that and how it could make sense, but Nightmare On was deemed non-canon by Scott, so why are we seeing the character later on? That just seems absolutely bonkers and makes me think that Scott changed his mind. And if he did change his mind, maybe some things he said weren't canon are canon now, and vice versa. So could this be why nothing makes sense anymore? Could things have just been changed out from under our noses? Probably, because Scott doesn't talk. Number 7, appearance. The puppet has a very simple design. Black fabric covering the body aside from white stripes near the wrists and a mask. See, even dead children possessing animatronics will wear face masks, people. The mask is a simple yet freaky design. It has solid black empty eyes with purple streaks running down from them. They're like voids. With red cheeks like some damn demonic Pikachu, and then a mouth that makes me not want to know what that mouth do. Probably eat my damn face. This is one creepy animatronic, especially when presented in the right way, like when walking down the hallway in FNAF VR. Other than that, if it's just chilling in the music box, it's fine. Even if it's poking its little head out, like, it's still okay. Why is it that people like use nursery rhymes to make stuff scary? Like Pop Goes the Weasel, for example. Why do people use that to be scary? It's not alright because it works, okay? Children are already scary enough as it is. I almost got stabbed by one when I was working in an elementary school as a co-op student in high school. Yeah, they mentioned it as a hazard, but I thought it was a joke. Nope. One time the teacher wasn't around and that little bugger just came running at me with scissors. Luckily they were safety scissors because it's not like I would have put that kid on the ground, but honestly I should have, even if I really did want to. True story. And at 6, Missing Link. Some believe that the puppet is special, and she is. She seems to be the most sentient of all the animatronics, and she seemingly gave life to the others. However, that's not what I'm talking about. When I say special in this context, I mean they believe that the puppet has connections across realities, which sounds weird, but let me explain. Throughout FNAF 3, we see these clues, like cupcakes and secret codes and whatnot, that end up showing us how to get the good ending. These clues are actually something that you set up in FNAF World. Some think that the reason we were actually able to see those hints is because of the puppet, who can show up on a rare screen, even if it's potentially hallucination. More on that later. So could the puppet be the link between the worlds of FNAF? Can Charlotte peer beyond the veil and see into other games, and maybe even other realities? Can she see the Fazbear Fanverse timeline? Can she see the Joy of Creation timeline? Can she see our world? Can she see a timeline where I don't talk about FNAF daily? Because I'd love to get a peek at that too, that's for sure. I don't know, it seems a little far-fetched, but I mean, hey, it could be plausible. And at 5, Sinister Puppet. The Sinister Puppet comes from the unfortunately unreleased fan game of Sinister Turmoil, where instead we got a smaller version about the sewer section of the game called Sinister Turmoil Sewers. But I'm glad that we didn't get this game if this is what the animatronics were going to look like. It's horrifying. The scratches across the face only add to the horror, and its damn stance is even more intimidating. Like, I can't even replicate that. The fingers are as long as my arm, and it just adds to the whole tentacle thing that Nightmarion had going in FNAF VR, and I'm not for it, okay? We get enough questionable fan art in this series, and this is only perpetuating it. But goddamn, this thing is just disgusting. Like, look at the teeth on this thing. I'm actually scared. Like, I'm glad that I don't have to play this. Like, holy sweet niblets. Billy Ray Stewart. And at 4, very aware. The others are like animals, but I am very aware. It's a line that can be said by the puppet after they kill you in Ultimate Custom Night, but the thing is, what does that really mean? I alluded to it earlier. Since, like we've seen in FNAF 6, they're still controlled by their animatronics programming. So how on earth is she aware, but also not aware enough to fall for the bracelet code trick? It's really just an issue of they haven't established what animatronics can and can't control in this series, yet the puppet seems to still stick out above the rest. It's weird, and it brings up an excellent question, because like, what really controls these animatronics? From the sounds of the Fazbear Frights epilogues and stories, it's their agony that controls them, but based on the puppet, we could also assume that it's the coding, or the spirit, or a combination of multiple or all of these things, and it's damn confusing and frustrating. Like, we don't know what we don't know about this series. We think we know something, and then we look into it further to try to get evidence for something else, and then boom, turns out we know nothing. We're all Jon Snow when it comes to FNAF. Getting close to the end in number 3, creation. The creation of the puppet is very straightforward. I've been kind of saying it this whole video. Charlotte was brutally killed outside of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, as seen in the FNAF 2 minigame of Take Cake, where Freddy is tasked with bringing cake to crying children, while we helplessly watch her get killed outside of the joint by none other than, you guessed it, Matthew Perry. Not really. But that's what takes us to the events of the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6, where we see that the puppet actually heads out back after this to find the body of Charlotte, and then it falls next to her. Well, it falls first and then it crawls over to her, allowing her to live on by possessing it, which potentially then takes us to Midnight Motorist, which makes me think that Crying Child saw Charlotte being killed by his father, since she was at the Fazbear restaurants, and then the game was called later that night and he was already gone. But again, that's not certain. That's a theory we've already talked about, I think. And ultimately, in at number 2, start the fire. Another theory goes that since the puppet was at the FNAF 3 location, that they were the one who started the fire, which was honestly a fairly solid theory for a while. But with the reveal that Henry sets the building ablaze in FNAF 6, I feel like it's safe to assume that he also set the FNAF 3 fire, especially when the pronoun of he is used to describe the one who tried to release them, according to Orville Elephant in Ultimate Custom Night. Quote, "He tried to release you. He tried to release us, but I'm not going to let that happen. I will keep you here. I will hold you here, no matter how many times they burn us." The us, I'm guessing, is referring to William and the one possessing him, instead of the us being other animatronics. What do you think? Did the puppet start the FNAF 3 fire, or was it Henry doing what he should have done a long time ago before William was released? We didn't start the fire. It's been burning since the world's been turning. Finally, in at number 1, the first victim. I was the first. I have seen everything. That's a line from Chica in Ultimate Custom Night, which actually made us think that we were originally wrong, since we always assumed that the puppet was the first victim. It seemed more significant since it was his business partner's daughter and it was outside the pizzeria, but this line completely threw us off. Until we realized that perhaps Chica was just referring to being the first of the missing children instead of the first victim of them all, since that would still let Chica be right and allow for the puppet to be killed before them, hence how they were able to teach them how to reanimate, as we see in the Give Gifts Give Life minigame from FNAF 2, which also explains why Golden Freddy is limp and has to teleport, since he never gets a mask put on in that game. So who do you think the first victim is, the puppet or Chica? Let me know and have a healthy debate down in the comments. I don't want to see anyone being mean. Healthy debate. In at 10, not first. Apparently, unlike everyone in the YouTube comments, the puppet was not indeed first. Well, the first victim of William Afton. At least that's what we thought at the time. And while that idea did vanish before Security Breach came out, let me explain why we thought that the puppet wasn't the first victim. Because we thought it ended up being Chica, because she told us so in Ultimate Custom Night, saying that she was the first and has seen everything. Which is pretty weird when you think about it. Like, I don't know why we thought that Susie was gonna be the first one to die. It should have been Charlotte, and it was Charlotte, but that one line messed everything up. Like, why is it that every time we think we have something right about the series, and then like we have it locked in, and then like it's established within the community, Scott ends up like just throwing it down the drain, or making us think that he does. Like it happened with the puppet in this instance, and it happened with the identity of Michael Afton multiple times. Like every time we think we have something figured out, unless it's been directly confirmed by Scott in like a Reddit post, he throws it out the window. Well, like on like our first assumptions that the puppet was first, but then he threw it out the window, and then he went out and then threw it back in. And at 9, give life. From the FNAF 2 minigame, Give Gifts, Give Life, we can tell that the puppet, while being the first, because they were the first, okay? The puppet was the first, but it was also the one who brought the other animatronics to life in the suits, or at least gave them the ability to move. We see that the children lay dead on the ground, and then the puppet goes to give them gifts to cheer them up, because they look sad, because, you know, they're dead. But when that doesn't work, the puppet, for some reason, is like, oh damn, they must be dead-o, let's bring them back to life in the animatronic suits or something, which it's pretty interesting from a lore standpoint, since what we know about Remnant, because like they were in the suits, they had possessed the suits, but I guess maybe the puppet activated their Remnant, something like that. I mean, there weren't really any Remnant based animatronics after this, because the Fun Times aren't possessed, and then the only one that gets possessed is Springtrap. So hey, I don't know, it sounds weird. Maybe they didn't originally suffer enough and the puppet had to spark them, which sounds even worse. Oh man, like, well, the FNAF series will literally do anything at this point, so I can never know. But you know what? None of this is as fun as killing Braith in Skyrim.
What a deviation from the script.
And it ain't behind the mask. Do you want to know who's behind the mask? Do you, like, really want to know? Because you already know, people. Come on, I literally said it earlier. It's Charlotte. Yeah. Like I'm okay. I mentioned it. I mentioned the name of Charlotte, but it's you knew that already. It's not like this channel is introducing you to FNAF right now. You're all here because MatPat isn't uploading any new FNAF videos, okay? Either way, the one hidden behind the puppet mask is Charlotte, Henry's daughter, as revealed in the original FNAF novel trilogy. We technically don't know her official name in the games, since her grave was blurred out in the gravestone ending of FNAF 6, but nevertheless, it's still Henry's daughter, as told to us by Henry himself during the final monologue of the real FNAF 6 ending. We know that this is Henry speaking, not only because he calls the puppet his daughter, but also because in the Insanity ending we hear an audio file play, and on the monitor, the actual computer file is labeled as HRY223, and HRY in this instance would mean Henry. So yes, Charlotte, or Charlie, is the puppet. And it's 7 Scrap Puppet. This animatronic is pretty damn creepy. I've used a lot of puppets in the past for scary animatronics, and hell, I've even talked about a whole load of them in this list. But this is just, it puts me on edge. The Scrap Puppet was created by TFE Arts on DeviantArt and is really giving me some Venom symbiote vibes with all the tendrils coming off their back. They are clearly meant to be present in FNAF 6, since they're at the review table and the only time we see Scrap animatronics is outside in Ultimate Custom Night and FNAF 6. So this is clearly meant to be the start of a jump scare while trying to salvage them, even if the puppet is in Lefty, but we ignore that. The glowing green eyes are creepy, and it overall just like, it makes my skin crawl. Especially like, look at this man's juicing. Look at those pecs. I wish I looked half as good as this. And at 6, key player. When we talk about FNAF, you usually think about the core 4 animatronic. The ones that have had multiple versions of themselves made and appear to be in basically every game, aside from Chica and Sister Location, I guess, and Bonnie in Security Breach. I don't know, I guess Scott might have been a little too worried about the fan art, especially based on Bonnie x Chica, which is a whole other can of worms. And you know what? Y'all need to be sorted out for that. That's weird. However, even though she got introduced in the second game, the puppet has been present in at least 6 out of the 8 FNAF games, appearing in FNAF 2, FNAF 3, FNAF 4 as Nightmare On, FNAF 6 in the Security Puppet minigame, Ultimate Custom Night, FNAF VR, Help Wanted, and FNAF 1 in the form of the poster that can sometimes appear on the wall. And they've actually kind of been in FNAF Security Breach if you count the like the discontinued staff bots, like the broken ones that have like the in your dreams written on them, like the Vanny bots, the Vanny versions of the bots. Yeah, she was also in Security Breach. So yeah, the puppet has been a pretty core character, if I do say so myself. At least, you know what I do. Screw it, I say it myself. Halfway through at number 5, first. While no, Charlotte may not have been the first victim by William Afton, she was the first to possess any animatronic. This was shown to us in the security puppet minigame, where we see the puppet and Charlotte combined after she was brutally killed by Afton outside of a Fazbear joint. With what we now know about Remnant and Agony, how true possession only comes from intense pain and emotion in the form of agony, we can be damn well sure that she was in agonizing pain when she was killed. Not only was she, murdered at the hands of her father's friend and business partner, but she was also stuck outside of her favorite place on Earth, somewhere that was literally designed to defend her. But the security puppet was blocked off by an unknown source, probably just a couple of bullies who wanted a girl out of their fun. So she was in agony, so much so that she was instantly able to possess an animatronic that was designed to defend her. So much that it sacrificed itself by crawling in the rain. It's like Henry coded himself into the security puppet. That's a theory for another day. And at 4, Lefty. The Lefty animatronic is actually an acronym, LEFTE. It stands for Lure, Encapsulate, Fuse, Transport, and Extract. So before you go off into the comments saying that the number is spelt wrong, it's not, okay? We spelt it exactly right. It's just more commonly written with a Y. This version of Freddy, which technically it is because it's a bear, don't come at me, okay? Any bear with Freddy characteristics is a version of Freddy in my eyes. Anyway, this bear was specifically designed by Henry to emit the bracelet code that corresponds with the one that Charlotte was wearing, as we see in the security puppet minigame, the green one. Then we use that bracelet to lure the puppet, which has Charlotte inside, towards us to capture her. Then we bring her to the pizzeria from Pizzeria Simulator so then we can free her soul. This line is such a good example of context and delivery. Like the way that I kind of put that is nice, like he wants to free her soul. But if I was to say something like capture her and then bring her to the pizzeria so that she could burn with the rest, which is still true, that sounds a lot more sinister. So it just goes to show you that maybe you need a little bit more perspective on everything you read or hear or do or experience. You're welcome. Getting close to the end in at number 3, Lured. FNAF 3 was a game that really only involved one animatronic, Springtrap. The rest of the jump scares were just phantoms that wouldn't actually end the game. However, in a rare screen, which some consider a hallucination, we can see the puppet standing in the hallway of Fazbear Frights. While this may seem like a hallucination, I haven't heard of hallucinations having reflections in the floor. I mean, you may hallucinate reflections, like with mirages, but I haven't heard of someone hallucinating an object and its reflection. Plus, if this game was meant to be the capstone to the series, it would make sense for the puppet to show up, since at this point it hadn't been released yet either. So even if William hadn't survived the Fazbear Frights fire, the puppet would still be kicking around, unable to move on and unable to let this nightmare rest. But how did they lure the puppet to the FNAF 3 location is my question. Did they use the same wristband code trick, but it left when the fire started and then that would explain Lefty's requirement, or is it just an oversight by Scott? But ultimately, in at number 2, fan versions. While the normal puppet animatronic may not be scary per se, the fan-made versions of the character are damn freaky. Take the character of the Reaper puppet, for example, from Final Nights 3 and 4. The scrapped Withered puppet that was showcased by Amanda in Top 10 Scary FNAF Fan Animatronics Part 2 from ages ago, or literally any other animatronic puppet that has ever been created, okay? I don't know how people are so easily able to make this damn thing so freaking terrifying. I usually don't include fan-made versions as a number on fact lists, but for some reason, so many people want to make terrifying versions of the puppet. Like, what about the Havoc puppet from Dormitibus? Have you seen that thing? It's like the spiders in Australia got their hands on the illicit substances that bodybuilders use. If you're mad about weird phrasing, blame YouTube, not me. Okay, this puppet has got me unable to speak. And finally, in at number 1, Family Ties. The puppet is one of the few dead kids to have a connection to someone important in the series, the others being members of the Afton family. The puppet, on the other hand, is a member of the Emily family. Well, at least according to the book, their last name is Emily, but who cares at this point? Out of everything we want answered, you decide to give us Henry's last name? We legit have a whole few lists about the top 10 FNAF unanswered questions, mysteries, things we want to know, but yeah, tell us this. Tell us their last name. Also, you should go check out those videos, by the way. However, Charlotte has more of a connection to anyone than anyone else in the series. I mean, she is Henry's daughter, the mastermind behind the animatronics of the Freddy restaurants, and then she was killed by William Afton, the business partner to her father. She was also probably friends with the kids that go on to be the missing children since their parents were together so much. She was also probably friends with Afton's kids since their parents were together so much, and you know what, just because it's Scott, she was probably friends with the 5 missing children from 1985. So yeah, and then she also brings life to them, so yeah, you know what, I count it, that's all. And a 10, reverse puppet. The reverse puppet hails from the Five Nights at Candy's universe, which at some point soon will technically be canon in the FNAF multiverse. Also known as Vinny or Monster Vinny, reverse puppet has a blue color scheme as opposed to the normal red one from the puppet that we all know, with bluish purple tear streaks and a similar color bow tie. This version has hands with claw-like fingers and boots that I swear I've seen in Skyrim. They wear a t-shirt and shorts instead of the typical single layer of fabric, and honestly, it makes me feel weird when it's wearing clothes. I don't know why, but the design and the demeanor of the character just sets me on edge more than the normal puppet. And the normal puppet isn't really scary, so I don't know why it wearing clothes just creeps me out. And a 9, Dream Puppet. The fan game Sweet Dreams has its own version of the puppet as well, known as the Dream Puppet, but honestly it looks more like a sock monkey than anything else, so I've just been calling it the Sock Puppet, which is already funny, but this thing is honestly just a creepy sock monkey, and for anyone with pediophobia, the fear of dolls, this is going to be a nightmare for you. Just picture a demonic sock monkey that looks like the FNAF puppet, and you pretty much have the Dream Puppet. Not much is known about the character lore-wise in Sweet Dreams, which is damn terrifying. And it's so damn creepy that I can't handle it. This is like the one doll that I'm scared of. Like, why is it so creepy? I love sock monkeys and I love monkeys. Why? Why did you do this to me? And an 8, Nightmare Phantom Puppet. Who doesn't love FNAF 3? Anyone who wanted the games to stop at 2. But we all have respect for the amount of effort put into that game. While only one jump scare can kill you, the Phantom animatronics add some much needed variety and a little unpredictability to the game. You don't know when you'll get the warning signs, and when you do, things malfunction and you need to repair it. But out of all the scary Phantom animatronics, there isn't really a Phantom puppet. Well, at least not a really scary one. But thanks to the internet and various fans of the series, the Phantom puppet will haunt your dreams and hallucinations for eternity. The Phantom puppet's design was just the normal puppet with some texture changes, but Nightmare Phantom Puppet will send a shiver down your spine, and you'll wonder if we can show this on YouTube. With multiple arms and just a more nightmare-y aesthetic, this Phantom actually makes the puppet scary to me. The thing is menacing, and it's not okay. And at 7, their appearance. The puppet has a very simple design, okay? Dark, black fabric covering the body, or like covering the endoskeleton. I guess it has an endoskeleton. I don't want to see the puppet's endoskeleton, that just seems weird. The only deviation from that is a couple of white stripes near the wrists, and then the mask. See, even dead kids possessing puppet animatronics will wear masks, people. The mask is simple yet a freaky design. It has solid black, empty eyes and purple, like purple streaks running down like the side of those like voids. It's like, I don't know what that is. Like, it's supposed to be tears, but it's not the crying child. So like, what the hell? Plus, it has red cheeks and then some like, it's like some damn demonic Pikachu level crap, okay? And then it has a mouth that makes me not want to know what that mouth do. Because it's probably gonna eat my face, okay? This is a creepy animatronic, especially when it's presented in the right way. Like when it's walking down the hall in FNAF VR. But other than that, if it's just chilling in the music box, it's relatively fine, even if it's poking its head out. Like, why is it that people like use nursery rhymes to make things scary? Okay, like Pop Goes the Weasel, for example. That wasn't scary. That wasn't intended to be scary. Why do people use it when it like in a creepy situation? It's not okay, all right? Children are already scary enough. I almost got stabbed by one when I was working in an elementary school, okay? Well, I mean working, I was doing co-op, but then like some kid came at me with scissors, okay? I thought it was a joke, but no, that was, the teacher wasn't around, he just came at me. But luckily, they were safety scissors. It's like, I would have put that kid on the ground, okay? I really wanted to, I just went, boom, you know?
Uppercut instead of flying across the portable. Boom! Call me William Afton. Just...
I would have done it. And the 6, Havoc Puppet. Havoc Puppet is formed by a cracked and distorted version of the puppet's original mask in the Dormitibus universe. However, this mask is missing the lower half. The head has a hole above the mouth, seemingly acting like a nose. Dude, we thought Voldemort was lacking in the nasal department. Add 2 white dots acting as pupils in its empty eye sockets, and you got one recipe for terror. Coming out of the mouth are 7 black tentacles, 3 in the front and 4 in the back, like some messed up arachnid mullet that should never have been allowed to exist in any plane of existence. Like, even Satan would see this thing and be like, yeah, no. Hell no. No, not even hell no. Get this out of here. The middle front tentacle looks to be like a tongue, while the ones next to it operate as legs. The outermost tentacles work as if they were arms, and the other 2 work as if they were tails. Why would you make this? Why would anyone decide to create this unholy abomination? Like, this thing is horrific. I can hear Satan, like, just screaming. The satanic temple is quaking, man. This isn't okay. The Havoc puppet appears in night 4, so if I ever play Dermitivus, I'm exiting at night 3. I'm arachnophobic and thought that the Reaper puppet was bad, but holy sweet baby Jesus, I'm not falling asleep tonight. Halfway through into number 5, spill it. The puppet must know a whole damn lot in this series. Like, Charlotte must have been onto William or something in order to get targeted like that. Especially when she was outside the restaurant and William was vulnerable because he wasn't wearing a spring-lock suit. It's certainly interesting to say the least. I firmly believe that the puppet knows William's true intentions or true motives. Maybe she found him with her mother, or maybe Charlotte herself was actually William's daughter. It's an interesting concept that I think should be explored further. Obviously, I can't really do a deep dive in this video, but there must be significance to this kill. I mean, you don't go out killing your business partner's little girl unless you got a reason, right? Just me? It just seems like a bad idea, and it was, considering how Henry then dedicates his life to destroying William and every act of cruelty that he caused. So, unless there was a very good reason, William is just a moron. And in 4, Twisted Puppet. There are so many versions of the Twisted Puppet, I'm sure you'll be seeing all of them in this number, but holy sweet living are all these things terrifying. From gaining bulk to having multiple legs, arms, and 3 eyes, every incarnation of the Twisted Puppet has me shaking in my boots and makes me afraid to turn the lights off at night. Like the one from Rafael Alejandro, where the puppet's arm is transformed into a blade that will cut my throat more than the plot of Game of Thrones Season 8. This causes me like actual mental anguish. I thought FNAF was already taking a toll on me, but surprise mother***, it's time to take a toll on your life. And I'm not even exaggerating, I'm actually being serious about this. Like, this is one of the most horrific versions of the puppet to date. Even if there are multiple, okay, they're all terrifying. This should be higher on the list. I don't know why I didn't do that. And at 3, creation. The creation of the puppet is very straightforward. I've been saying it this whole video, really. Charlotte was brutally murdered outside of a Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria, as we see in the FNAF 2 minigame of Take Cake, where Freddy is tasked with bringing cake to crying children, while we helplessly watch her get killed by none other than, you guessed it, Matthew Perry. Okay, not really, but that then takes us to the events of the security puppet minigame from FNAF 6, where we see the puppet head outside the back of the pizzeria and finds Charlotte's dead body, and then falls down next to her, allowing her to live on by possessing it, which potentially takes us to Midnight Motorist, which makes me think that the crying child saw Charlotte be killed by his father, since he was at the Fazbear restaurants, and the father, you know, he got home. It was called later that night. You know, I'm not certain, but it's just a theory. A theory for another video. You thought I was gonna say it. In it too, the Withered Puppet. Okay, so like I said, the puppet has never really been the most terrifying animatronic to me, but this version just kills me. And I mean, if I ever met it, I'm sure it would actually, like, take me to the realm of oblivion and torture me for all eternity. This is a withered version that we have yet to see in the games. The puppet's face is all torn and the body looks as if it's been somewhat grinded up with lots of wires sticking out of it. And the teeth in its mouth, they're equally disturbing. Its wires also seem to be red and blue, unless that's just the lighting, but it still seems to be holding on to a few buttons that it has on its chest, like some messed up version of Coraline. Like, despite having no actual skin, it's just a bunch of exposed I hate this. Please, take it away. Finally, in at number 1, Corrupted Puppet. What if Jeff the Killer was a Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic? It isn't really a question that you hear much, or at all, but probably something that you'd hear from life's biggest questions. But the answer is pretty simple. Just look at the Corrupted Puppet. I honestly don't know what to say at this point because, damn. And I think you'll all agree with me that this is a worthy number 1. Don't give me the BS of, oh, this isn't scary. I don't care. I don't care if scary is subjective. This may not be making you afraid to turn off your lights, but that's because it's fake and you know that. But this is actually scary. The design is terrifying, and while you may not be worried it's going to get you, I think we can unanimously agree that this is not something we would want to encounter in a dark alley, forest, street, anything, even during the day. I don't want to see it, period. This is actually going to keep me up tonight. Like, if I can't get this out of my head, usually I say that as a joke, but I don't know if I'm joking this time. It doesn't help that as I was writing this too, I had this ice cream truck going by and it had really creepy music. Like, you know how like kids in horror always get that kind of like ice cream truck-esque music? It was that. And it was going around and it was just there and it was churning in my ears and ringing.